John was going about himself. Yeah, he was setting Sammy up in a way, I think.
Interesting.
Absolutely not.
Oh,
Absolutely not. Because let me tell you something. There's times in life, okay, where I could be on the phone with my brother and he does something stupid, my brother. And if you didn't hear the next conversation I'm having about my brother, okay, my brother he's acting like a real a-hole. He's a piece of shit. He's running all over town. He needs to get a better job. He needs to do this. The truth of the matter is the proof is in the pudding. He said Sammy is the acting boss when I'm not on the streets. He was basically gave Sammy,
yeah, he did say that,
the run of the mill. Like, hey, so, but you know how people they get upset with your family member. I'm sure Tom has called me a fucking asshole. You know what I mean, off camera, and like But if people hear that and they don't know the content of the relationship you have with him, that was his guy, Sammy. You know what I mean? He even said it on tape. So, and the biggest mistake that was made is Yazoo's 100% right. Sammy will never admit that he did anything wrong. He should have said the biggest mistake Gotti Sr. ever made was promoting Sammy. He puts it all on Gotti that he did this and he did that. Well, any guy that I've talked to that is in the life or was in the life, you're not going to hear many bad things said about Gotti. He was a good-looking movie star. The cameras followed him around. He made a mistake having the guys come down. But guess what? He's the boss, and the boss does what he wants. But don't forget that when they were watching him on Mulberry Street, Sammy was walking down the street, grabbing his balls and strutting and flexing his muscles and shaking the guy's hands on the sidewalk and kissing them on the cheek. He was a part of everything. But when the shit hit the fan and he needed to be a tough guy, he failed.
Good point. Let me continue.
Leadership style, because word on the street was you were tough but you were fair. How was because obviously, let's be candid,
I wanted to get a feel for how he gave Gotti's opinion on how he was. I wanted to get Sammy's opinion on how he was as underboss.
Ran the show. A lot more people dealt with you dealt with the captains and so forth. How was your
because it was something else.
With the people, captains that reported to you?
That first, and then the suits thing.
Good. It's live and let live. Let everybody make money. They got to pump up some of the earnings that they make on different things. The agents, the FBI agents, Frank and Maddie, they called them the twins. They were assigned to me to watch me all the time.
Yeah.
And they said one day it was a pleasure to watch Sammy. The guy was the underboss. He'd come out in jeans, sneakers, go in the schoolyard with kids 16, 15, 17, and play handball with them.
Yeah.
We always said, and John Gotti's walking around with the pinky ring, the diamonds, and the cigar and all that bullshit. Me, I was taught and I grew up, it's a secret society. We're not supposed to do those things. I knew that things that Carlo Gambino did, my Tato, my mentor, this was totally against Cosa Nostra. You got to be quiet.
Yeah. At that time, though, you guys had New York and arguably a lot of the U.S. in the palm of your hands, right? And I know you're a smart guy. You see things. When did you start to see the first cracks? Like you took over, you were there. Where you're like, when did you start seeing the cracks? Obviously, the suits and that kind of stuff was one part of it. But what was the first crack you saw? You kind of said to yourself, you said, not sure this is going to work out.
Well, it was definitely the flash he was putting on. The news media was wrapped around us. The FBI was wrapped around us. And he had that. He did that. If he didn't live like that, they wouldn't be there. Maybe one or two, but not the group that was around us.
Yeah.
One.
Wait, really quick, guys. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth. This is a big get for me, and I want to be respectful. But he doesn't take a lot of responsibility
for nothing.
Like almost like, hey, So what I was trying to also get earlier, and I couldn't crack that nut, was I was trying
This
to get
is the water. This is the only water that is available to this villain.
I was trying to get a feel for Gotti's management leadership style, and it's obviously the mob. So feedback was not like a good strong point. You know what I mean? I'd say, hey, maybe the captain shouldn't show up weekly, and you don't give a shit, right? So that I get. It's kind of a one-way leadership style. That part I get, but I just surprised that Sammy doesn't own any of it. I want to unpack that in a little bit. I want to continue.
But one thing I want to add is, if you think, okay, so when he was killed, Frankie DeChico, right? You hear a story, right? It was a Sunday. There was a ton of people at the club.
Yeah.
Right? There was 40, 50 people at the club. Well, where was John Gotti when there was 40 or 50 people there? That's what these guys did. You walk down the street, there's 20 old guys on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was trying to bring Cosa Nostra back to a different time. That was Gotti's mistake. Not realizing, hey, this isn't where. If you look at the old pictures of the Ravenite, they were parked on the sidewalk. They were having meetings outside. They're shaking each other's hands. They're
parked
hugging
on the curb.
Right. But what about, and the worst thing is that he got caught on tape, Gotti, which is great. But what about every other boss before him? He got caught on tape. So I guess Tony Ducks and Fat Tony and Paul Castellano and Ralph Scopo and Jerry Lang, they all were pieces of shit for running their mouth because they all got caught talking. Every one of them. He just did what they did, and he paid for it.
Good point. Yeah. All right.
We have Ryan here. He just came over, my partner Ryan, and
good.
If he chimes, he's from that area. From Ozone Park in the Howard Beach area. So he has a take on it too. Maybe if he wants to.
Have him screen, and Ryan's always welcome.
Yeah.
He ordered all the captains, most of the main guys, to come down to Mulberry Street to see him.
Bad move.
Now, when they came down and they were sworn, the FBI even said it, they were filming. They not guys they never even knew were in Cosa Nostra made guys. Now they had their names, plates, to this, to that, and they were. That was another tremendous. He put it on. He gave it to them on a silver platter, and everybody was recognized. They made these charts, and after a while, they investigated everybody they saw there and found out this guy's a made guy, this guy's a captain. He gave it to them on a silver platter. So, and I knew that was wrong. Everybody did, but you couldn't change his mind. He wanted to do what he wanted to do, and you can't argue with the boss.
Well, it's interesting because good leaders accept feedback, and I can't imagine you were good with it, but you're right. The boss is the boss. How about business owners, right? Talk a little bit about business. How can they start to see cracks in their business? Obviously, a little different than a mob, but what do you look out for? Or you're in business now, you're doing media. What do you look out for now, being in a life, but now being in legitimate life? What are some things to look out for when you're running a business to make sure those cracks don't happen?
Listen, I always said this. Don't look at who you are and what you say.
Yeah.
Look at who you're not. I'm not a
Believe it or not, I thought this was great business advice.
tech guy. I'm not a camera guy.
Yeah.
So I think everybody in their business has to watch and put a good team around them. No matter what kind of business, it doesn't really matter whether it's construction, Hollywood, whatever you do. You need good people around you, smart,
Correct.
Intelligent people, and you got to watch them. You got to watch them. When you come in the morning, a lot of people, they'll go pray, and they should. But right after you're done praying, you should go to that corporate paper. I got a corporate paper on the wall, and do the sign of the cross and pray to that. Take care of that corporation.
The fast forward a little bit. That was personal in your opinion. I believe it or not, and again, hey Ryan,
What's
believe it or not, I
What's up,
was
Ryan?
looking to go into the business angle, and I really wanted to get Sammy's feedback. I actually thought that was great advice in terms of business. I tend to try to, do everything, and then I realize I can't do a lot of things. You got to kind of hire people, like
Mhm.
you can't do. Like Joe, he can't even turn on a camera, so he needs Ryan and BK Skip. So I think Joe was listening, and I think he took Sammy's advice.
Okay, so I set up a thumbnail, okay, on my own.